Once you get accepted into the program, you get the stamp, the Supreme Allied Commander stamp back from the Bureau that you've been accepted. And you must complete within the training must be completed within the first 4 months of being accepted. So if at the beginning of August you get the letter back that you've been accepted into the program, you're on a timeline to get that training done. Yes, sir?
Does that go back to July 1st, or does it start when you get the letter?
My understanding is once you get official notification that you've been accepted. But that's subject to change. That's subject to change. Newly promoted supervisors must complete their supervisory training within 8 weeks of being promoted. And I have to be kind of honest with you, I like this provision. I like the idea of not taking a supervisor and kind of throwing them out there and expecting them to perform an aspect of supervisory tasks and not having them ready to go, especially as it relates to this. There's too much liability and exposure there. Because once these events start to unfold in front of you, you don't get a chance to go back and make those decisions right again. You've got to get it right the first time when the event's taking place. Yes, sir?
Is there a definition of supervisor? Because everybody has a supervisor. Is it all the way up to the CEO of the company because he supervises this level and this level and this?
If you have people reporting up to you, if you're supervising somebody and you're responsible for them, I can only qualify it from what I can tell you. I would say that you would need to go through the supervisory training. You know, if at the end of the year, you're the person signing off on somebody's performance evaluation for a set number of employees, or if you are responsible for guiding, steering, instructing, you know, a number of employees, I would recommend that you have them go through the supervisory training. Why? What are you thinking?
It seems like it just keeps building upon itself.
It could.
You know, I think typically when you talk supervisor, you're talking like down here someplace, but then is HR the ultimate supervisor of the workforce? Does HR's VP?
Oh, HR has to be,
yeah,
have their arms, legs, everything wrapped around this, because a lot of this goes right through your HR department. Most companies, that's who administers the program. Maybe you have it a little bit different, but if your HR department is involved with this, you know, especially as it relates to pre-employment, termination of an employee, they really need to be involved with the program. I would recommend that they would. Yes, ma'am.
Now, would this include just the Ohio employees, or, I mean, because we have facilities all over the states. Our HR department's in Chicago, and they're paid through Chicago.
They're paid through Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to a legal.
Or should we go to like the highest?
I would venture to say if your facilities in Ohio that operate in Ohio, they have to have Bureau of Workers' Compensation coverage, correct?
The facilities in Ohio, yes.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. If,
So like
they work in Ohio, then they've got to
supervisor in
follow
Ohio?
Ohio guidelines.
So the highest supervisor level in Ohio,
Yes.
who's paid through Ohio, that would, okay.
If you have people outside the state that supervise your folks here in Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
for their benefit, for your supervisors elsewhere, they should probably at least understand the program.
Right, but do they have to participate in this training?
Oh, yeah. They can't administer the program or effectively operate if they don't maybe participate in the training at some point in time.
Right.
Let's say that, you know, you supervise the 4 of us. We're supervisors here in Ohio, and you're my supervisor out of Chicago. You know, I start to develop an alcohol problem, and I report up to you. So I'm controlled, because I work in Ohio, by this policy because it governs me here.
Right.
How can you potentially, effectively, you know, help me or get me into the program or do what you need to do as a supervisor for me here in Ohio.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they're they're trained. The supervisors are trained.
Right.
You know, HR department in Chicago, but to follow within these guidelines within the first 4 months, do I have to get the HR department out of Chicago and then our health, safety, and risk management team out of Boston within 4 months to get? See what I'm saying? Even though this group's paid out of Boston, this group's paid out of Chicago, they're not covered under Ohio BWC.
Peter?
If they are, in the old days, if they supervised Ohio payroll employees, I think they need to have training.
That was my
So
understanding.
they have to,
That was the old rules.
they have to have training, but do they have to have it within the 4 months?
If you're going to participate in the program,
Yeah.
Something to consider, it says 4 months of acceptance.
Right.
You're gonna submit your application by the end
Right.
of June, it probably won't be until what, September?
potentially.
Before you get your acceptance, so if you
Okay.
figure you're gonna get accepted, you really got from July 1st through the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And one would hope if you're already in the old program, there's been some degree of training.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
You know, you've got an internal policy that people are aware of. It might be just a few little tweaks, additional pieces that are new to the process.
Do you do webinars at all?
Yeah.
Okay. That might,
Do the,
yeah, that might make
okay.
it a little bit easier.
Okay.
All right, here's a new requirement. Supervisors must also complete accident analysis training. Okay, the Bureau wants you to understand causative factors as to why an accident took place. Some companies that I go to, when I look at their accident review or incident review reports, an accident one week and an accident the next week, they're completely different how they're filled out. One makes sense. I couldn't give you heads or tails of the other one. So there's, I guess, a quality assurance aspect that they're trying to implement here, that you're reviewing your incidents within your facility and you know, you're taking a look at what is actually going on.
Joe,
This-
can that be considered part of the 2 hours?
No. This is separate training. This is separate training. This training must be completed within 30 days of entry. I'll say entry acceptance / acceptance into the program. Newly promoted supervisors must receive this training within 60 days of being promoted to the supervisory level. In your folder, I've got a copy in there of their accident report. It's pretty straightforward. Peter,
Is this in the approved document?
this is not an approved document. This is Joe Halal contraband.
Dave,
You're just trying to show how well connected you are, right?
No, I just happened to, you know, find someone that was cooperative enough to send me these. And I guess inadvertently, I kind of cornered her a little bit. I said, you know, hey, we've got a lot of people asking about these and they want to see the document. Can you just give me a sample of it? Oh, sure, no problem. Just and she told me, she goes, as long as you understand, these may not be the final document that gets published. So just, again, please keep that in mind going forward. This might not be the final document.
came from David McKibben, M-C-K-I-B-B-E-N.
It's good to have friends.
You're going to be famous. This training must be completed within 30 days of, again, entry or acceptance into the drug-free safety program, newly promoted supervisors, 60 days. As you kind of look through this, you'll see that it's really not overly extensive. The other thing that I understand is that you will have to submit this online to the Bureau. They're gonna have a portal of submission where you'll have to complete this and then submit this online.